Yo guys, what is up? Max on a Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going over kind of the winners of the most recent buff patch, and kind of updating our tier list, and also going over in depth some of the weapons that got buffed and what roles you want on them and what they're good for. I made a tier list the other day of all of the weapons, and I'm going to be maintaining and upkeeping this. So, like, for example, the Hellwalker got buffed. I don't think it's C tier anymore. So in this video, we're going to be like replacing all the weapons that got buffed and updating our list. Hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. Let's get right into it. So the first weapon to talk about is the 7th Sense. Now, this got its orb damage buffed by 250%. I already had the 7th Sense in A tier, and now with the orb change, it's even more proficient at like boss killing and mobbing as well. I don't think the buff is enough to push it quite into S tier. S tier I'd consider to be good on basically any character or like any build. I would put the 7th Sense currently at like kind of the top of A tier. It's a great option for a lot of builds, and if you can use a build that lets it fire kind of infinitely, it's even better. Now, on your 7th Sense, I really recommend trying to farm this thing with Dataless Shotgun. This allows it to shoot multiple pellets at a time, and its special ability, Proprioception, allows you, whenever you hit an enemy, to spawn orbs. Those orbs will float, and then when you reload, they come down and do a bunch of damage. With a shotgun version of the 7th Sense, you can get multiple orbs per shot. So you can see all of those little floating orbs above, and then I reload, they all come down. The orbs are a decent bit of damage, so getting more of them faster is a huge help in DPS on this weapon. The other thing that's really, really good is anything that can refund ammo. You can like stack these orbs up. So like right now I'm on Infinite Crit Harlow. If we can get a lucky chain, there we get a bunch of shots. I note I can only shoot twice. So 4 and then 2 and then we're done. But on Infinite Crit, we can stack up a ton of them, and then all of those come down and hit, and like that, look how much damage we just did on that burst. So like Ranger Rafa, Infinite Crit Harlow, anything that allows you to stack up all of these orbs can do a ton of damage. The one thing to note is these don't quite work like stickies. The orbs eventually will go away. They have like a duration that they're up in the air. So if you're using like Ranger Rafa and you're shooting for like 8 seconds with infinite ammo, you are going to miss out on a lot of those orbs. A lot of them will despawn over time. So you don't want to like hold your reload or shoot infinitely too long because you will lose damage. Our next weapon to talk about is the Queen's Rest. Now, I had talked about in our like tier list the potential of this gun, and I think it got the buffs that it actually needed. This thing is pretty great for mobbing. It's not the best mobbing option, but it also just shreds bosses. One of the big strengths of the Queen Rest is the like numerous amounts of rolls that you can get. And with good rolls, this thing is a monster, but you do need good rolls. I think I'm going to put this thing at like the very bottom of S tier right now, just because it's a weapon that can be used on multiple builds for mobbing and bossing. And it's just really, really strong right now. For the rolls on the Queen's Rest, there's a lot of different things that this can roll. I think you absolutely want the Toric stickies in a high percentage. Currently, the highest I've seen is 17%. This helps a ton for bossing. It can also roll Jacobs, which is really cool because its inherent effect is that you spawn homing sticky projectiles at a 50% chance. So if you have Jacobs on this, not only you like basically ricocheting other sticky rounds, but you're also going to be ricocheting the Jacobs rounds. So then it becomes really good for mobbing. And then personally, I like a Ripper part on this thing. Ripper makes it full auto. Otherwise, you have to click or fire as fast as you can click. If you get a Ripper part, you just fire this thing full auto, and it makes it feel really, really good. It can also roll Elemental, which isn't needed, but if you want to be like Elemental matching, you can get that as well. So in my opinion, God roll would be Torg 17% stickies, Jacob's ricochets plus Ripper on a high damage roll would just be absolutely ridiculous. And then I use this thing in its like impact mode for mobbing, so you don't have to detonate the stickies, because I think stickies are awkward for mobbing. And then use the sticky mode for bossing. If you get that, you've got a super versatile weapon that can do most of the content in the game. Our next weapon to mention is the Rangefinder pistol. This received a 30% buff. If you haven't messed around with the Rangefinder pistol, its like legendary property is that it's like range finding. So it fires out a burst of different amounts, either 3, 2, or 1. It goes like, I think it's 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And it was in C tier before. its buff makes it do like respectable damage. However, I find this weapon incredibly awkward to use. It can roll in multiple different elements. So if you're looking for one, I would try to find a either rad or cryo elemental one with a shotgun Tierlist swap, so you can get some extra pellets out of it. And I'd probably move it up to the very bottom of B tier. Still, in my opinion, needs some love. Still an awkward weapon to use, but it does respectable damage. Our next weapon to rank is the Bully Pistol. This is an order pistol that basically you charge up and then fire a full auto. Its special legendary perk is that when you're aiming down sights, you summon drones, and those drones go and hit things. I'm going to be honest, I don't notice the drones even after the buffs at all. They're just like basically non-existent, and they're hard to see. So I wouldn't worry about the drones at all. However, the Bully itself is a very solid, high DPS pistol. It doesn't feel like it doesn't do anything special, and its like perk rolls that you can get are very limited. For example, this thing, if it could roll Jacobs, could be kind of ridiculous. However, because it's so limited in its rolls, it's very limited in the things that you can do with it. I wouldn't prioritize it for bossing, and I wouldn't prioritize it for mobbing. Its damage itself, though, is very good. So I'm going to be putting it up at probably like the top of B tier. I think it's just a very, very solid weapon. The one that I've got right now is a 9.7k DPS. I know this can go slightly higher, but we're doing 1,935 base damage per pellet with a decent fire rate. So if this thing could roll like Jacobs, for example, I could see it very easily getting into A tier, but it's a little limited in the things that it can do, but definitely should keep an eye out for it because it is a strong damage option. Next, we've got the Hellwalker. Now, the Hellwalker received a 30% base damage increase. I had this thing previously in C tier on a 30% buff, messing around with it on builds that you can fire like infinitely with the Hellwalker or prevent yourself from reloading, aka like Infinite Crit Harlow or any sort of like Bullet Buddy Deluxe Rafa build in Ranger Rafa setup. It feels really great. However, there's still like slightly better options, and it feels not great on builds that can't take advantage of like infinite ammo stuff. So currently we're going to be putting it at the very top of B. I think it is just sitting on that line of like bottom of A tier, top of B. I think top of B is a good choice for it. Now on the Hellwalker, you're going to want to farm for a looming variant. The looming Hellwalker, so far, from what I've seen, rolls a higher damage value. You also want to try to find one with a 58% crit damage roll. This thing can roll into like 10.1k DPS, which is typically what you're looking for. The other one that I was using was like an 8k one, mainly changes in like reload speed and stuff like that, and also the crit value that it rolls. Our next weapon is the Ruby's Grasp. This got buffed by 50% damage, and it also got a 25% fire rate buff. Now, I don't use this thing for shooting, so the fire rate buff didn't really do anything in terms of like how I prefer to use this weapon. But the 50% base damage, I think, easily moves this thing up into A tier. Not totally sure where I'd put it in A tier because it kind of depends really heavily on the build. The reason I think that this is currently better than the Chuck, though, is because I'd really only use the Chuck on like a Tedior build. The Ruby's Grasp right now, because it hits so hard and it by default is homing to enemies, you can use it on any build as a fight for your life weapon. When you reload this thing, it will spawn a bunch of homing projectiles that will go seek out enemies, and most of the time it one-taps them. So if you're ever in fight for your life and you go down and you're behind cover or there's an enemy that you can't see, you could literally just swap to this weapon, throw it out into the air, and it will go kill the enemies. Potentially the best fight for your life weapon in the game right now, honestly. And it does good damage for bossing, and it one-taps most mobs, so definitely an A tier option now. Our last weapon to mention is the Convergence. Now, this got a 25% damage increase. The Convergence I already had rated as one of the best shotguns in the game. It was really good at killing mobs. However, it lacked a little bit of damage for bossing. It wasn't my go-to like bossing option. It is now one of the strongest mobbing options, and it's really good for bossing as well. Still, like, not the strongest bossing option, but it can do bosses. I don't think I'm really moving it because it's already pretty high up on S tier. I guess you could maybe shuffle it around with some of these sniper rifles, but S tier gun getting buffed, staying in S tier, no surprise there. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I plan to do these kind of videos after, like, And guys, it's gonna do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I plan to do these kind of like updated videos after any sort of like significant buffs to weapons occur. Next week, it sounds like we're getting AR buffs, so I'll probably have an updated tier list and kind of keep this as a running thing whenever those ARs get buffed. Hopefully, we get some significant AR buffs because they certainly need it. I'll catch you all in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye.